So I'm seeing a ton of gurus and coaches online on TikTok and YouTube and various platforms advertising their paid classes and seminars. And they're using these words like guru, coach, mentor. And anytime I hear those words come out of somebody's mouth online, I get an instant red flag. It's like waving the red flag telling me that you're scamming people. And y'all know the old adage, those who can't do, teach. And if these gurus were making so much money managing and owning Section 8 rentals, why are they teaching you how to do it? And they would say, you have to have an abundance mindset. Well, that just sounds like a creative way of skating a question and not actually answering that the reason that they're teaching you how to do it is because they don't do it and this is how they make their incomes, actually pretending to know and teaching you how to do it. So there's a couple of things that they tell you when you're learning how to invest that I don't necessarily agree with. And who am I? I'm a realtor, investor, flipper, and property manager in Western Pennsylvania in the greater Pittsburgh area. I work with hundreds of investors as my clients. And here's some of the examples of the misinformation these coaches are giving you. You can cash out refi and get 100% of your money back on a BRRRR. And for those of you who aren't familiar, a BRRRR is buy, rehab, refinance, and rent. So here's a little bit of information about that. So basically, you do your BRRRR process. You're excited because you're going to get 100% back because that's what your coach told you, and you're going to reinvest, and leverage is super important. Well, what if you don't live in this country and you're an investor and you're trying to pay back a hard money lender or a relative or a friend that you borrowed this money from, and you're trying to go to a bank to get refinanced and you don't live in this country? Do you think it's super simple to find a lender who's going to be able to do a loan for you if you're not physically residing in the United States and you're investing in the United States? That's going to be a higher risk. Another example of a reason you might not be able to refinance is that your job status changed. So you were employed making $5,000 a month, for example. Now you're not employed or you're self-employed. Well, that's going to decrease the likelihood that you're going to be able to refinance, or the terms are going to be not as advantageous as they once were. Another example is your debt income changes. So you go and buy a fancy car, you're now spending $2,000 a month on your car payment. That lowers your debt to income ratio, and that would also make you less eligible for a refinance. So I would not depend on that. Anytime you purchase a property, you should be 100% prepared to take on that loan if you're not buying it with a loan initially, like a bank loan. So there's another reason that it might not be able to be refied at the amount that you were hoping for. And one of those examples is that the comps have changed. So the comparables in that neighborhood could have gone up or down. And if the comparables were supposed to be $200,000 and now they're $150,000, you're going to probably get about 75% loan to value at 150, which is significantly less than what you would have received at 200. Also, there's two ways that appraisals are done, and sometimes they use a combination of the two for rental properties, and one is called the comparable method and the other is called the income method. Well, the income method is using the rent that you're receiving minus any expenses that you have on the property and coming up with a cap rate. And so the appraisal appraiser will determine if the cap rate should be 10%, 12%, 15% based on the area. Places like New York City might be like 8%, but in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, things are usually appraised at about a 10 to 12% rate. So if they determine that the value is, let's just say, 125,000 based on the income method, they're going to take that and use the comparable method and use the two of those combined to determine what the value of your property is. If they determine that it's 125 and 150, they may come up with a number somewhere in between the two, and it's not even going to be as good as you thought because all the other houses are selling at 150, so you're not even going to get 150. You're going to get probably like somewhere around 130. And then you're only going to get 75% of that, so you may have to come out of pocket with your own money, or you may not be able to pay off your hard money lender with your refi. So the last reason why you may not be able to refinance is because some banks require a seasoning period. So a seasoning period is the time that you own the property and the time that you've held it before you refinance. So most banks that I'm seeing nowadays are wanting between 6 months and 1 year of seasoning. Here's another example of something that these gurus are telling you that I don't necessarily agree with, and that is that you shouldn't buy in D-class neighborhoods. Yes, it's riskier, but there is a strategy to be had there, and if you're aware of all the pros and cons, it's definitely something to consider. It's a high risk, high reward situation, and if you're financially prepared for it, it's something to explore. A lot of them also tell you that you can buy rental property, real estate, with $0, zero money down. That is probably, of all the myths we're talking about today, the one that I disagree with the most. So sure you can. I guess it's possible. It's not completely unlikely. However, I could probably do a whole segment on like the flaws in this, but essentially here's the short of it. You can do it. It's possible. It's rare, but there's closing costs that you're not considering when you're saying like you're gonna have a zero money down, like a VA loan, as USDA loan. You also need to reside in the property if you're going to do those. It has to be under 4 units. I would highly recommend you talking to a lender if this is even something you want to pursue. But you probably shouldn't do it if you don't have any money. And the reason for that is you as a landlord or as a flipper are responsible for the livelihoods, essentially, of these people residing in these homes. Once you sell them or once you rent them to them, anything that you did to the property, you could be liable for. So if the roof caves in and you didn't disclose that the roof was in bad condition, you're responsible. Especially if you're renting out these properties and these people are living in these homes, you put no money down because you didn't have the money to put down on the property. You didn't save enough money before you purchased the property. You place people in those properties. Then something happens, you're responsible. You need to fix that, or else you're putting people in an unsafe position. So please save money before you get involved in rental properties. A lot of people will also promote wholesaling. And they'll be like, oh, wholesaling's totally legal. You can do it. You don't have to have a license. You can just start making money instantly. Well, wholesaling is legal in the state of Pennsylvania. However, wholesaling with a PA salesperson license is legal, not wholesaling without a license. So in the state of Pennsylvania, if you have a PA real estate license, this bill was passed in June, Senate Bill 1173, and I'll post the link in the comments. It's basically saying if you're wholesaling, you need to have a PA standard real estate license. Let's see here. If you're wholesaling with the hopes to build your capital for your first purchase, I would think twice and find a legal side hustle if you're not planning on getting your license. Having a real estate license in the state of Pennsylvania, on average, just taking the classes, renewals, continuing education, Supra, all these other things that you're paying monthly, I would say averages about $3,000 a year. So if you're not ready to put up that's probably not the best side hustle for you. I would suggest finding something that has a lower buy-in.